Hello and welcome to Reasons Are Debatable, where we look at one topic from many angles and offer bad advice that you didn't know you needed. My name is Matt.
And I'm Neil.
Neil, I wanted to start the show by thanking you for all the promotional work you do for our podcast. I think it really helps our podcast bloom when you talk about it on other shows, and I really appreciate that.
Well, that's good. I'm glad I think our podcast is definitely something that we should talk about. I like what we're doing with our podcast.
Yes. Did you? So I wanted to say, speaking of our liner notes, I mentioned last week that I was going to be on an episode, and the way the scheduling worked out, it's actually this week.
Oh.
If you're wondering where that episode is, it's not episode 122, it's 123. So please go check that out. Our liner notes. We do a little EA Sports soundtrack battle, NHL versus FIFA, so go check that out. I'm going to put a little poll up as well so you can vote for who had the better.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yeah, man.
Put that poll up.
Vote on this shit.
Yeah.
You been invited on the OLN yet, or?
No.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
No.
Not officially.
I don't, not official, not unofficially, not officially, not at all.
Oh, that's too bad.
Not even a glimmer. In fact, I think there's an argument on Twitter about who either wants to or doesn't want to host it if I was on.
I know. It's getting kicked around quite a lot. Would you consider that like bad manners or etiquette of Chris to not reach out to you directly and have other people talking about inviting you onto his show?
Well, it's funny you bring this up because I wanted to talk about manners versus etiquette and how we view it and how we use it in our lives. I don't want to give Chris any more podcast time than we already have, since he has no love for my bubbly personality or my epic podcasting skills.
Right. Okay. Well, then we can move on. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this.
You're going to say it, aren't you?
No.
Are you a fan? Are you a fan of etiquette?
Are you a fan of etiquette? Hey, you like etiquette? This etiquette.
Yeah.
Etiquette versus manners.
Okay.
Where do you stand? Are you into it? Are you not? I just thought we'd get the definitions of like what is your definition of etiquette versus manners?
That's a good question because they're fairly synonymous, I think. You could I don't know, maybe you could make the argument that etiquette is, I don't know, they're both kind of rule of thumb deals. Like I was going to say one's maybe more rule of thumb, whereas the other is kind of I don't even want to say proper way to act. That feels kind of weird to say it that way.
Well, no, I think that's interesting you bring that up because I always thought of etiquette like, what is it, Emily Post's book of etiquette. I always thought of etiquette kind of like when we talk about, and we have talked about, language and communication. I always sometimes think that etiquette is what rich people kind of have used to distance themselves from poorer people. Like, which fork do you use first? How do you set a table? How long do you wait to write a correspondence? How is that correspondence? Things like that. Versus, I always think of manners as kind of the everyday version of etiquette where it's nice to say please and thank yous. Well, don't shake their hand now. Don't even look them in the eye. Get the frick away.
You can look in the eye if you can see over the mask, away. But you cannot shake hands. Fuck that.
No shaking hands.
You can do the foot kick, the kid and play foot kick. That's what I try to do.
You can do that. You can just, what I like to do is I like to make myself look like one of those inflatable people that they like at the used car dealerships. So that's how I acknowledge like if someone says hi, I just wave my arms around and look really
You
weird.
look like Neo, like you're dodging bullets in the Matrix.
Now remember, with the mask on as well.
Right, so it looks even creepier.
So that's where I kind of think of the difference between etiquette and manner. Now, I didn't do any research on this topic whatsoever, so I could be way off base. They could be exactly the same thing, or I could be nailing it. I'm not going to check later. I expect the people that listen to the podcast to let me know if I'm correct or not.
Yes, well, because people
using proper etiquette though.
People have please. People have come in language, please. People have come to expect our show to be well researched. So this is going to be a bit of a departure today.
Yeah, 100%.
I kind of feel like, don't tell me what to do. I woke up in a free country today. I can do whatever the fuck I want. So don't tell me how to act.
No,
that's how I feel.
Right. I mean, if you wanted to like kneel down during the anthem, don't have the government tell me what I can and can't. Oh, or not not that? Is it just a mask thing now? I don't know. So I was just curious as to, do you get like frustrated when somebody doesn't have or show good manners or manners? Like I get really frustrated when people don't say please and thank you, or people don't hold the door open for other people. And it's not like a male female thing. Like I'll hold the door open. But I get really, really frustrated. Like if I'm at Starbucks, of which I haven't been in months, but I assume they're still out there. And that people don't say please when they place their order, or thank you when they get their order. Do you pick up on that on other people, or does that frustrate you?
Well, really quickly on the door opening thing. So an interesting thing happened in, I guess it would have been college, but a gal that I went to high school with, she, in college, she would get mad if you as a guy opened the door for her. Like she felt like that was some sort of sexist act. And so it was one of those where I had a conversation with her about it. And I was like, something that I think you kind of referenced when we talked about doing this topic. I'm there first anyway, so I'm opening the door anyway. So I open it for whomever. It doesn't, I'm not like going, here you go, my lady. It's more just a matter of common courtesy. That's kind of how that has come up as far as the door opening thing goes. But as far as the manners go, I'm raising 2 children. So of course,
are you?
I am. I know it doesn't look like it. Podcasting all the time and stuff.
That's right.
But I have been really careful and adamant about, that's those 2 words that really go together, about teaching them, proper manners. So all that stuff you're talking about, please and thank you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times a day somebody says, Mom, I want apple. Great.
Yeah.
We just go,
cool.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then we don't do anything.
I like my iPhone a lot too. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So it's a combination of either, okay, I'm going to wait till you say please, and I'm going to hold the bowl until you say thank you, and I'm not going to let go. And or, hey, are your fucking legs broken?
Right.
So there's that combination of the things. But yeah, the manners comes in a lot just because of the fact that you're trying to teach people how to act who are young and don't know better. And I mean, kids are really bad with awareness.
Useless. Oh,
they have horrible awareness.
Right.
Spatial awareness, whatever. They're just not picking up the whole situation. They don't take it all in very well. And adults are like this as well, which is even more infuriating. But children, you give them a little bit of slack because they're kind of figuring it out. But yeah, we are constantly working with them on, again, old school. When you meet somebody, shake their hand, like look them in the eye. Don't be distracted by other things, like, make eye contact, that kind of stuff. And so those are the kinds of things that we for sure have been trying to kind of ingrain in our children.
When other children come over that don't have good manners,
I fucking kick them out.
Yeah. How do you handle that situation? I mean, I'm not saying it's your responsibility to now teach them, but do you say anything, or are you on your kids more hoping it rubs off, or do you just kind of like, that's little Timmy's issue, not worried about it?
Yeah, luckily so far, most of their friends are pretty respectful when it comes to that stuff. Some of them more respectful than our children. And I'm like, see?
That's why I'm getting that kid the new PlayStation.
Right, not you. But yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it's just showing them the example of doing it all the time. And so even if one of their friends doesn't do it or doesn't handle it the same way, that's not how we raised you. And so that's how we, expect you to act. So yeah, I mean, it's tough when their friends are not, are acting differently or, being disrespectful and stuff like that. So we usually just talk shit about them when they're gone.
Right. Makes sense. But if like one of their little friends says, like, can I have a soda? Do you say, are you going to say please? Or do you just kind of let it go because it's not time nor place?
I think
And I'm asking honestly because I don't know what I would do if I was a parent.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I probably try to steer them in the direction of the manners, but I'm not going to sit there and hold the shit out over them and be like, come on, say please.
Right.
But I think I kind of try to walk them down that road a little bit. And if they don't get there, they don't get there.
But like if they don't say thank you, just yell you're welcome at them when they run away.
No, in a real snotty voice. You're welcome.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because it's not my job, their manners, but I do care how it affects my kids as far as, them seeing that behavior and acting the same way.
What about if you're out with friends and I don't know if any of your friends don't have the best manners or, sometimes you start sometimes drinking a little bit and manners, you're not necessarily on purpose, but again, they become like little kids and they're focused on, I want to finish telling you this story. So the drink comes and there's no thank you or even paying for it or whatever.
I compensate.
Yeah, that's what I do too. But do you ever say anything to your friends? You're like, dude.
No, I mean,
what
am I going to say? Like, what's the point? When it comes to something like that, it's not like I'm saying, hey, you said something really awful and racist or sexist, and and I'm not cool with that. This is a little bit different for me, and so I'm just kind of like, like I said, I compensate for them, and then I just go on. I'm not going to teach somebody at 45 years old how to use proper manners at this point.
Yeah, for me, it depends on the situation and who it is, because there are some friends that I have that it's almost like what I do when I'm with them, because it's usually the same people that never say please or thank you or hold the door open or anything like that. So I usually will say something, mostly just to take a little jab and make myself feel better about myself.
Well, and you're much, much older than me, much older. So
a lot by decades. But I always get like embarrassed if I'm around people that don't have good manners. I just don't get it.
Have you been embarrassed in Eugene? Did I ever do anything?
No. You have very nice manners. Sometimes you're very abrupt and we just have to go.
That's true. But that's more against you than the establishment or the server or whatever.
No, but you're always very kind to. I think sometimes we're probably, when we're together, a little too kind, because we're saying please and thank you for every freaking thing. Yeah. And I'm sure it's appreciated, but it is funny. Oh, may I please have some napkins? Oh, may I please have a water? Oh, may I please have another beer? Oh, thank you. And then 3 things that thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you.
We're nice people.
We try.
Yes.
We try.
So, I mean, I don't, it doesn't bother me so much when other people do, but there's certain things that also bother me as far as like general etiquette. Like people can't fucking get on and off an elevator. That's a real simple one. Why do we have trouble with that? People... Yeah. And that's one where I big time work on my kids with. Like whenever we go to get an elevator, I'm like, step to the fucking side, let the people out, try to explain the flow of traffic and how it works. Or like, and here's one that a lot of people screw up, and it's the escalator rule. Like when you're on, for instance, I mean, it's a lot of places. It happens at the airport when it's like a moving walkway, or if you're at a subway station and you're going up and down. You stand on the right, you walk on the left. You
started to say Subway. I'm like, what the fuck does Subway have to do with this?
No, but there's kind of an unwritten rule that you stand on the right and you walk on the left. So if you're going to just stand there, you get the fuck out of the way, because somebody's probably trying to make it home somewhere, or make the next train, or whatever they're trying to do, make their flight.
It's not even unwritten on the people mover in airports. It says.
Oh, does it say it?
Stand to the right.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I guess it does say it there. On subways and stuff, it doesn't necessarily say that. Maybe there is some signage up, but for the most part, people forget that rule all the time. So you're constantly having to be like, excuse me, so that kind of little shit drives me nuts. So I let a lot of that stupid stuff, and I was worried when we started this episode it was going to turn into Old Man Yells at Cloud, because that's what it's going to sound like in some of these instances. But again, it just goes back to awareness. People are just not aware of other people around them, and the fact that you're impeding them from doing something, or you're getting in their way, or you're causing them some sort of fucking, trouble when you just don't have to. You just don't give a fuck.
Right. Or the only thing you give a fuck is about yourself. Right.
That's true. Right. Yeah. Your world is everything you see right in front of you, and there's nothing else that exists around it. It's like they don't have object permanence. They never learned it as a child. And so this happened a lot of times too when I went to high school, especially when I switched schools and it was even bigger, more crowded school. It was so fucking packed in the hallway. So you really had to like find your path to get to your next class, because it was just, just butts to nuts in there, so to speak. And so people would do stuff like they would walk backward facing, talking to people, and they would just walk backward.
Oh,
like, you
right.
asshole, you're just fucking knocking into people. That stuff drives me nuts.
The elevator thing's funny to me when the elevator opens and the person in the elevator motions you to get in, but they're getting out at that floor. It's like, why do you want me to get in before you get out?
That's confusing.
I notice it happens more in Reno and Tahoe, and I think it's either drunk people that are just like not aware of what's going on, or just really stupid people. I'm not sure which. I can't say.
The people at the front of the elevator do that too. Like they'll stand there, the doors will open, and nobody is waiting to get on, and they just stand there, and you're like, you realize why we stopped on this floor, right? Because there's somebody behind you who needs to get on. People just don't fucking think. I don't know why. Drives me nuts.
So how about etiquette? Do you teach your kids like this is the fork. This is how you.
This is the fork.
This is a fork.
This is a fork. I have taught them what a fork is.
How about spoons? Have you moved to spoons?
We actually just went to sporks. We just skipped it. Combined
yeah,
it.
no, that makes sense. That makes sense. But like at a proper place setting, which utensils to use first, or how to set a proper place setting. Do you guys worry about that? Is that even a thing anymore?
Well, we make them dress in full suits when we eat dinner.
Power Ranger suits, but it's a suit.
No, we have them set the table all the time, and I give a lot. I mean, I don't feel like you need to be 100% perfect. Sure, if you're having a bunch of people over for dinner, there's some part of you that feels like you need to set the table according to whatever silly rule was invented a million years ago, and so you try to kind of adhere to that. But with us, it's like put the napkin on the left, put the fork and the knife or whatever on the left on the napkin, put the drink on the right. That's it. Like that's it.
And
that's good enough.
Good to go.
Yeah, it's kind of try to keep it simple.
If you go out to a nice dinner with other people that have the place setting, do you notice when people don't know what the hell to do or which bread plate is theirs? That's always a fun one. Is when people don't know what side the bread plate and they're
or
like,
the water.
Is this one?
They don't know which water's
right?
Theirs. Yes.
Is this mine? It
doesn't happen a ton, only because usually if I was, like when we're going out, it's usually like just two couples or something like that. So we're at a square table and it's pretty obvious. But yeah, if you're at a full on 6, 8, 10 person table or whatever, people start to get real confused. Is this your water? Is this my water? And then it gets a little bit out of hand as far as that goes. But yes, the bread plate and stuff, it doesn't bother me, but it is kind of funny how people sometimes people use stuff for different things, and you're like, oh, okay,
yeah,
sure, why not?
It's always I feel bad sometimes for people that are put in those situations, and you can tell they have no clue.
Yeah.
And they're trying to feel like they'll be watching other people trying to figure out because they want to know, but just won't ask. Like, oh, I don't know. I've never learned, which way this goes.
Have you ever sat in first class in an airplane? And I don't want to get too much into airplane talk because I think we'll cover travel.
Oh yeah,
more extensively later.
That'll be its own thing.
That was the one time where I felt a little bit like I didn't know what I was supposed to do because they would come around and I think they hand you a towel and then they come around with the rolls and you're like, do I grab one or you hand it to me? Like I felt really out of place because I've only flown first class like twice in my life or something stupid. So I didn't really understand how that works. I could see people feeling like they're not in their element or whatever and just not understanding and kind of looking around like, what are they doing?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And there's always a part of me that like almost enjoys watching. Because you can see the gears going, and they're like, "Why are there so many forks? What's this spoon doing up here?
When do you put the napkin in your lap?
When do you put the napkin in your lap? When do you put it on the chair? When do you put it on the table? If it's a party of 4 or more or 6 or more, when do you eat? If it's 10 people and they give you your salad, do you eat your salad?
That's a good question. I always wait.
Well, if it's 4, if it's 5 or less. Yeah, if it's 5 or less, you wait. If it's 6 or more, you eat.
Because stuff will get cold and shit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that fact.
But I still wait no matter what because I'm always thinking somebody's going to think I didn't wait because they don't know the freaking rule.
You see them notice. You're like, no, man, 7 of us. No, man.
Yeah. I am a huge, I don't have it anymore. I want to get another copy, but I was a big fan of the Emily Post Book of Etiquette. Like I just enjoyed reading it, and I'm like, "What? Really? That's the thing?" And
it is interesting when you read some of those rules because you see them and go, "Oh, like there's certain things you didn't know. Oh, that's why that's there, or that's why they." It's one of those deals. It's almost like some silly life hack, but it's not. It's just the way that it was.
No, it's just presented. Yeah. You're like, oh, okay. Oh,
yeah. I was gonna say I always wait for people. I understand where. The only time I don't wait for somebody to eat is if it's like 2 of us ordered a salad and the other people didn't order anything. So I'm going to eat my salad.
Yeah, and then you're like, screw yourself.
Because I'll tell you right now, I got to have my salad before my meal. I don't like having my salad with my meal. I don't like doing that.
No, that's barbaric.
That's lunacy.
What is going on here? We're just throwing all the rules out the window.
Why would you give me my hot food and my salad?
Yeah.
I like to eat my salad first. So I'm not mixing and matching here. I'm not eating my salad and my hot meal at the same time. Fuck that.
No.
I'm going in order.
I'm not using the same fork. Then the fork gets warm, even if you're taking separate bites. It's not good.
No. It's not good, Neil.
It's not good. Not good, Matt.
What about, I got a question for you, because this is one I've always done to people that you want to talk about your Emily Post etiquette. Mm-hmm. Elbows on the table.
You're not supposed to have elbows on the table.
I know. But what I'm asking you is, does it bother you when somebody has their elbow on the table?
If it's during dinner, yes. If it's during coffee or the dessert, no.
Have you ever noticed that I often eat with my left forearm on the table?
I have not, but I am a table forearmer as well.
Okay, so the forearm's okay, but not the elbow?
Yeah. In the book, it says where you can stop.
Oh.
You're not supposed to touch the table while you're using utensils, but you can rest your arms on the table,
Oh, well,
but
then
not
I'm
your
okay.
elbows.
I'm okay.
You're freaking golden.
Thank God, I thought I was doing
golden.
it wrong all these years.
Now, I mean, I think I remember. It's been years since I want to get the book again. It was so much fun. But all the little rules are so fun. Like if like you don't have to wait for the host or the hostess to sit down and eat when that person is serving the dinner party, because they don't matter. Apparently, they just don't count.
Well, I don't know what your experience is, but I mean, 99 times out of 100, that person goes,
Dude, I don't even get invited on podcasts, let alone to somebody's house to
You're
eat.
never getting invited to houses. Well, no, but usually the host will just go, start eating. Like, they'll just tell you.
Yeah.
Just go start eating. Like, don't wait for me. And then of course, some people are just like, nope, I'm going to wait now.
And that's annoying because as a person who likes to cook and often cooks for family, it's less stressful for me if the people start eating, because I can either eat a little bit in the kitchen or come in and take a bite here and there, than knowing somebody's waiting, because I'm like, I just busted my ass to make sure that all the food came out and was warm at once, and now you're going to sit there and freaking stare at it because I'm still cooking?
You're sitting in there picking at the food while you're serving it up? Is that what you're doing in there?
I'm rubbing my nuts in it.
Have I told you about my dad when he carves a turkey? Oh, man.
Does he eat? Oh.
He's picking off bites as he goes, and I'm like, dude.
Oh, my whole family. You can't carve a turkey without these fucking vultures coming and eating. You have to be careful because you'll slice somebody with a knife because hands are just coming in. Yeah. Thanksgiving at my family seems to be like all manners and etiquette go out the window until you sit down. It's like, oh, it's okay to put your freaking finger in the gravy and grab like the crusty bits on the top of the stuffing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, those are the best.
While it's all out on the countertop, but as soon as it hits the table, then everyone's all of a sudden using spoons. And I'm like,
now we have to say grace.
Y'all just butt blasted the turkey. What is going on?
Butt blasted. Wow.
Yeah.
Are there Emily Post rules for chewing?
There are. I forget them, but I remember it's a whole section.
Oh man, I got some issues there.
One of the most fun sections, I don't want to go back to chewing, but one of the most fun section of the Emily Post book is correspondence.
Oh, okay.
Like somebody dies, this and that. I don't remember it all, but I remember reading, and there were so many crazy rules, like you shouldn't go more than 4 sentences before you mention blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. Yeah, it's insane. I love it. But chewing is an issue. I have a problem with chewing, and I have a problem with people. I have a problem with people. That's it.
Period.
Hard
Exclamation
stop.
point.
Get to the question. If somebody goes to put food in their mouth and it gets all over their lips, like ice cream or sour cream, and they leave it
while they're
drives
chewing,
me up a wall.
Yeah.
I'm like, how can you not get it all in your mouth?
Well, that's one. And then 2 is you can manipulate your tongue and mouth so that you can like do a quick lick of that and get that back in your mouth and go ahead and continue chewing. You don't have to sit there and chew the whole time until you're done and then be like, oh, now I'll grab this morsel that's sitting on the edge of my lip that you can't look at.
No.
Yeah, that bothers me.
And chewing's another thing.
And yeah, mouth open. I mean, the smacking. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it's just why? Why do you do that?
It's
so my
tough.
kids, I've been having to work with him on that, especially my younger guy. He'll have moments where I'm like, what are you doing, man? Stop with the smacking. It's killing me. So that is a problem. Let's move back to your correspondence. Mm-hmm. I was going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. As far as, thank you notes. I'm sure she covers thank you notes and
absolutely.
Invitations to weddings and all that kind of shit. And one of the things, and I think we may have talked about it before, but kind of steering into the job situation is like when you're trying to get a job and you go through the process of interviewing and your resume and your cover letter and all that stuff, which people I don't think do as much anymore. Mm-mm. And then the thank you. And so that's something that happens a lot now. So my lady friend, for instance, she was getting a job, whatever it was, however long ago, and she was real adamant about, she would have like a phone interview or whatever, or go in for an interview when you could, and she would make a big, hold on, fucking so loud. That's bad manners. I'm podcasting down here. Does Emily Post talk about podcasting manners?
I think she does.
What
yeah.
the rest of your family should do while you're recording your really important podcast in the basement?
Yeah.
Anyway, she would like write a thank you note and drive over to the place and deliver it right away. Just really on top of it. Because it's it's an impression you're making, but a lot of people don't do that. It's gotten a much less formal. And I'm hey man, I'm all about being casual, but there's certain things that you should still probably follow some formalities with. And so I think I talked to you about this before, but like I had some friends of ours who run a company, and she was laughing about how, and I'm not going to try to be an ageist here and target one particular group. This is about 5 years ago. And she's like, all these people I'm getting resumes from that are anywhere between like 22 to 26, they just email me their resume, not even necessarily say what job, and just attach resume, thanks, or let me know. Let you know what?
Yeah. I got received, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Good luck.
Deleted,
Yeah. So it's funny how some of those things that seem antiquated perhaps do still go a long way when it comes to on the receiving end.
Oh, absolutely. I think when you're courting somebody,
I always send thank you notes.
Thank you for letting me stick it in you. That was really nice. Looking for a job. I know for me, it's always been even people like, real estate agent, loan agents, things like that. It makes a difference. Well, and particularly in looking for a job or sending out a resume, because sometimes that's the little bit of difference between somebody looking at your resume again or calling you for a second interview and not calling someone else.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, this person, whether it's driving or walking to the place you interviewed and delivering a note, or even sometimes another phone call saying, put me through to, Vice President, and just say, hey, thanks again for the opportunity. I really enjoyed talking to you. I hope to hear from you and, have a great day. That sometimes those little things are hugely important.
Well, and not only that, sometimes what happens in those situations is you do that, and maybe there's another strong candidate who gets the job and you don't, but they remember you. And when shit opens up again, you're still in the back of their mind as somebody who, they were interested in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, and I always think of like when I think of whether it's, like I said, real estate agent, loan agents, things like that. Because you know how it is when you're buying a home or going through the loan process or anything like that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for them. Even though they're paid, it's still a lot of work.
Oh, so much motherfucking paperwork.
I know.
Sign this.
I sometimes think it's nice to let them know you appreciate, and I think then you get a little bit more of a personal service and a little bit more attention because they're like, oh, it's not just calling up and saying, I already sent you that freaking, bank statement, blah, blah, blah,
Or even worse, fucking. I already sent you that fucking bank statement.
Fucking.
Give me my money.
I know for our
thank you.
travel agent, every year when we book or whatever we book through her, I will send her and the office a Starbucks gift card just to say thanks. Now, travel agent is one of the happier people that you talk to and usually totally into their job, and it's not crazy. But I do know then when there is a hiccup or there, a freaking virus busts out, that I get a phone call or an email almost immediately saying, hey, if anything happens, you're taken care of. Don't worry, blah, 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 blah. And it just makes me feel good too.
Well, and it's kind of the opposite of what you would almost expect is that the agent wants your business. So they would usually be doing the follow-up, not you. So you can turn that shit right around on them.
I do. And then and it works out to my for me.
How do you feel about emails at work?
As in getting emails?
Yeah, as in people not giving two fucks about spelling anything right or forming complete sentences or just being so loose in their communication that it's like, listen. So here's how it comes across a lot of times. I'm so busy. I got so much, important shit to do. I don't really care about making sure this communication is clear and concise or whatever. I'm just going to fire off the quickest thing I can to you because you know what? You just take it and do whatever you're going to do with it. It feels disrespectful.
I agree. When emailing work or doing any sort of professional email or even I'm researching this thing and I want to email the company and ask, do you have the new blah, blah, what are the stats on the new PlayStation? It'll still be like, either good morning, good afternoon, sometimes even a hope things are well with you. I was reading about this blah, 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 this widget, and I was curious to know if you had any more stats or any more information that I could get. Thank you so much for your time. Have a nice day. Sincerely, me.
Yeah, you don't have to write a whole book. You do want to be, somewhat to the point, but at the same time, there's so many times where people just vomit something into an email and send it to me, and I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck you're asking me here. So I'm going to send this back and say, because then you have to do like investigative work, like you're trying to solve a puzzle.
Well, that's the thing I find almost more annoying.
Wasting my time.
They know what they're talking about. So like the subject line would be, let's say,
it's their request.
Work truck transmission. And it's like, all right. And then it's like, do you know when that thing happened and how long before you think you'll have an answer? And I'm like, I have no idea I don't work on transmission. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. You want to write back and just write, not sure.
Yeah. Don't know. The other thing is like when it's not addressed, when the email isn't addressed.
Yeah.
And it's, how many hours did that thing take last Friday?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's see. I guess I pooped for about 15 minutes. So I'm 15 minutes. I don't know what to tell you. That is a little frustrating. I try to be very clear in emails and then always say, if I'm not being totally clear or you need a little more explanation contact me anytime. Here's my phone number, my email, blah, blah, blah. Just to know. So if they read it and they're confused, it's not like, you leave them an out of saying, hey, maybe I screwed this up in explaining it. I doubt I did because I'm much smarter than the recipient, but
Well, it's what happens sometimes is I have spent time trying to decipher emails, responding and saying, are you referring to this? You want this? Blah, blah, blah. Sent like 2 or 3 sentences back and they're like, oh, no, I'm talking about this. Well, you just fucking wasted 15 minutes of my time trying to, piece together this nonsense that you sent over. Another thing that's kind of along those lines, but in a slightly different way is like there's this guy I used to work with. His name was Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
I knew you were going to say it. He used to either call you, and sometimes I would be like 4 cubes away, so it was really adorable. Or he would just show up at your cube, and he would talk to you almost in an email format. So he'd call and wouldn't even say hi, or show up at your desk, wouldn't even say anything, and he'd be like, SharePoint document libraries. So he's going to tell you the subject line of the email straight away.
That's awesome.
And then he starts talking. So it's this funny thing where you know exactly what's going to be discussed, and that's handy. But at the same time, there's just very little cordial exchange. It's not like, hey, what's up? Hey, I had a question for you. Not that. It's just
no real connection.
Straight into it.
Yeah, that's
I always
awesome.
love that. The other thing that happens is we do a lot of instant messaging and stuff at work. So if somebody needs to bug you, they'll ask you a question or whatever. One of my least favorite things is that people do all the time is they'll say, hey, Matt.
Oh, I love doing this to you.
Yes, you do it. You do it to me all the time.
All the time.
Nothing.
Yo.
Nothing to fucking.
Nope, nothing.
And I'm like, I don't even want to respond to this.
I'll sit on it for hours until the point where you're like, well, now I need to know what the hell he's talking. Can we not podcast today? Did something come up?
Well, that's why half the time I just say, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a fan. I think you and my sister, I think those are the only two that get the yo.
Yeah, it's so frustrating at work because you're like, I don't want to engage you right now without knowing what it is. Or, hey, have you got a minute? And it's like, God, can you just give me a taste of what you're talking about? Just give me a hint so I know that I can jump into this or not. Like I might have a meeting in 3 minutes and I can't fucking get into a full conversation with you. But people struggle with communication skills. Let's just say that.
I don't get as stressed about it like in text or instant message. I think that's always a less formal way of communication versus in-person email and phone calls. But I still like people to say, even if it's like, hey, can you give me a call? I wanted to talk to you about the schedule next week. No rush, whenever you can. Or I really need to talk to you about the schedule next week. Can you give me a call when you have a chance? That cool. I don't need any more. I don't need you to go into what this. Sometimes it's the opposite too, where it's like this whole text explaining all this freaking stuff, and then call me, and I'm like, now I got to listen to you say it again.
Right.
I don't have that time.
No, but I would rather have more information than less. I would rather have an idea of what the fuck we're going to talk about instead of you just going, got a sec?
That's true.
Maybe.
And I do spelling to me is I don't mind typo. Typos sometimes happen, or with when what is it, autocorrect too.
But there are chronic misspellers who are doing it because they just give zero fucks. And it's like,
Right.
you don't care about this communication, so why should I?
Right. And I'm not too concerned about the semicolon versus a comma or any that stuff doesn't bother me.
No.
I don't get upset if somebody uses a lot of exclamation points. That doesn't bother me.
No, but if
either.
your sentence doesn't make any sense,
Right.
then how the fuck am I supposed to read it?
Yeah.
Now I'm guessing.
But
You're making me guess.
That's annoying, and it's only annoying because it really is. Oh, now I'm doing more work.
Yeah.
If you just would have taken a little time and figured out what's anyway.
Well, and let's talk about one more thing because we're gonna go long here otherwise. Phone communications in general. So the loud talking voice, the Bluetooth device, the fucking speakerphone. All these things drive me up the wall. So there's certain etiquette, I believe, involved with having a phone conversation. One is if you're sitting at a table with people or whatever, you're in the middle of something where there's communication going on, either people are talking or something's happening or there's something on a screen or whatever, you leave the room. Or you walk away to the back. Whatever you do, you take your call. But so many people don't give a shit about that and just pick it up and start talking. But the worst one is the fucking speakerphone. That drives me insane because people do it and then now you're listening to their whole conversation. And as a person who had been put on speaker way too many times, and my dad would warn me, but he didn't give me a chance to acknowledge when he would be with his former wife and her family. He'd be like, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, catching up some holiday or whatever. And he'd be like, I'm going to put you on speaker. Like, no. Now everybody's there. We're all talking. I just hate speakerphone. It drives me insane.
I'm not a fan either. I very rarely, I'll only use speakerphone if I'm alone, like in my office and do have to do something else. And I'm like, okay, and now I'm multitasking, but I'll even still tell the person you're on speakerphone, but there's nobody here. Cause you can tell. And I don't want the person to think
right.
Somebody I worked with would put people on speakerphone and not tell them. And I'd be like either in the office or in the truck. And I would end up saying something because I'm like, this person's going to say something.
Yeah.
And not know, and that's not cool.
It's horseshit. You can't do that.
Out in public talking loudly, and at my work this happens all the time. In the bathroom, having in a public bathroom, I don't get that at all. The other thing with the phone is when people call and don't address who they are or who they want to talk to, and just kind of start like talking. And I'm like, well, I know who it is usually through ID, but I
not always.
It drives me nuts.
Well,
no,
yeah. So
always.
like my stepdad used to work for this guy, and he would call you, or no, I think he just worked with him. He didn't work for this guy. He would call you, and he'd go, "Who is this?" He'd be like, "You tell me. You called me, asshole."
Right.
And he'd do it all the time.
People call, and a lot of times it's like robocalls or whatever, and they'll say like, Neil, and I'll say, "That's interesting. I have the same name." They're like, no. I'm like, well, who are you? I just don't get how it's. Even if it's, hey, this is blah blah blah. I'm calling for Neil. I don't. You can say you're from. This is, Jim from Ford calling for Neil.
Back when I was in middle school, I dated, if you want to call it that, this girl named Shauna for like 2 seconds, and her dad was adamant. If you called, you couldn't just say, "Shauna there." Nope. No. You had to formally go through the whole process to make sure he knew who you were. He was very adamant about it. And it was fair.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of shithead kids calling your daughter like, hey, Shauna there? So it made sense. But yeah, it became kind of a thing that all guys knew that if you ever called Shauna's, you had to do the whole process.
My parents instilled in me at a very young age that when you call someone, you say who you are first and who you're looking for and why you're calling them.
Yes.
Not just...
I almost said something awful. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I got me in trouble a couple times. When one of the popular things, and this probably for when you were younger too, was having your own phone line.
Oh, yeah.
Like trying to get. And so I would call somebody and they would answer and I wouldn't say, hey, it's Neil is, hello there, or hey, it's Neil is whoever there, because it was their own phone line. And my dad would lose his shit. And I'm like, it's their personal phone line in their room. That's the whole thing.
It would almost sound weird.
Yeah, and he's like, you should. What if someone else answers their phone? I'm like, but this, you're not getting it. That's the whole thing of having your own phone line.
What's like calling somebody's cell phone now?
Yeah. Hey.
Hello, is Neil there?
Is Matt there? Yeah, bro. It's me. It's my
man.
phone. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Someone else might answer it. I don't know what you're doing. Well, I think we should put a pin in this and then come back to it some other time.
Let me say one more thing. Is there
All right.
is there podcasting etiquette?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is one of them don't eat on mic? Yes.
Yes. It should be don't drink on mic too.
Well,
But
we let that one
I'm not
go
gonna
every
stop.
week on this show. Another one is
Yeah.
That
That's
one?
just, I don't know if that's etiquette or just not knowing how to use a mic.
yeah, it could be. There's a lot of breathy stuff I hear sometimes, but yeah, the eating on mic drives me fucking nuts.
Eating, you shouldn't start recording without the person knowing that you're recording. Whether that's an email that you sent out before saying, hey, just so you know, I record right away.
Did you hear that, Dave? Did you hear that?
You shouldn't record or plan on recording without telling the person and getting at least a verbal okay to use their recording.
If you have a really old piece of shit computer and you podcast with somebody regularly, you should probably reboot well in advance of recording, not right when you're about to start a live YouTube stream.
The bane of my existence.
Hey, we're all good now, man.
We're killing it now. So but there is. But we'll get into it. I thought this might be a fun topic to revisit so we can again sound like sanctimonious asswipes later.
Oh, we're good at that.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for Take It From Us. We don't have any sort of jingle for that. Each week we offer up some advice to a listener who has submitted a question to us. You can do the same at reasonsaredebatable@gmail.com or on Twitter at reasonsare. This one comes from Mike. And he put, and a million other pissed off Red Wings fans.
Okay. Oh, like guys who go down on girls when they're on their period?
Oh, man. That's not a good start, Mike. So
I want to know what the question is.
Red Wings, like the shoes. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, right. Those two.
I'm having issues.
Earning your Red Wings?
No, I'm having issues coping with the NHL's outrageous draft system, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. My Detroit Red Wings have sucked harder than Neil's auto blow all season. Are you sure about that?
My auto blow is pretty freaking...
Sucks
pretty cool.
Sucks pretty hard. Mm-hmm. And the one glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel was a top 3 draft pick. Now Gary Bettman, the commissioner, and his cronies... Sounds really... like they're all, off to the side. Yeah, get him, boss.
Yeah.
Have taken that away too. How do I cope with this level of bullshit? Kind regards, Mike. So you do not probably know how the NHL draft lottery works.
I don't need to answer this.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to say this. Mike, you should deal with the NHL outrageous draft system the same way I have to deal with this question. I mean, it's a sport, bro. Just enjoy watching your Red Wings. If they suck so bad, one pick isn't going to change it. And this Gary Bettman guy, I don't know him. You don't have to bring his name into this.
No, you do.
You take this on your own back.
Yeah, Gary Bettman's a piece of shit.
No, but tell me about this draft system.
So here's the thing. Because of the wonkiness of the schedule and them having to stop and trying to finish the season and all that stuff, what they ended up doing was they took the 7 bottom teams and said, you're eliminated. They took the 8 top teams and said, you're going to play a little round robin action to decide who the top 4 seeds are in each conference.
Okay.
Then there's the other 16 teams left. And they say, you're all going to play each other to decide who are the last 8 to make it.
Right. Okay.
To fill out the bracket. So it's kind of a weird system. So what they decided to do for the lottery was they said, okay, well, the 7 teams that have been eliminated are obviously in the lottery. Mm-hmm. And then there's 8 spots for the teams that lose the play-in round, which is like a best of 5 series. So when they did that, they had all these odds. Like Detroit had the worst record, so they had the number one, the most options or the most odds, the best odds for getting the number 1 pick. It was like 18 or 19%, 18.5%. And then it goes on down. And of course, so Team A, let's say, because they haven't figured out which team is which on these eliminated teams, had like a 6% chance, and the next one had a 5% chance, et cetera, on down. So one of those random playing teams that is to be determined got the number 1 pick, and Detroit slipped all the way to 4th.
Okay.
And so he's pissed because he feels like it's rigged or something, and now they got fucked. And that's when you have, when your team has a shitty season, it is one thing to kind of hang your hat on a little bit because the NHL is very draft driven. Like those early big time picks make huge difference in those organizations. Not that they don't know their sports.
Well, we don't know. That's just what they say.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, tomato. I mean, the Bing Crosby turned out pretty well.
It's Sidney Crosby. Yes. Yes, not Bing. And he was the number 1 pick. So again, that if you were going to get the number 1 pick that year and you were Pittsburgh and all of a sudden you got bumped to 4th, that changes the entire outcome of your franchise just by not getting that one guy. That is why Mike's pissed.
But Bing didn't do much for the Penguins.
No, not at all. They barely won any Stanley Cups, and he hasn't
Yeah.
put up insane numbers. And no, not at all. But so
A little soft, if you ask me.
I was gonna say that just to his own GM, Mike, your own GM, Steve Yzerman, said, and I quote, "To be honest with you, thank you for being honest, Steve. I'm not surprised. We had an 18.5% chance of winning the first pick. So realistically, I'm prepared to be sitting here today not talking about the first pick. I'm not really surprised. The bottom 8 or the 8 playoff teams had a 24.5% chance combined to get that pick.
This is mind riveting. Keep going with these numbers.
So the odds were better that the first pick would go bottom 8 than us. So he's looking at it logically saying, yes, we had the best odds, but it doesn't mean we're going to get him. We still only had a less than a 1 in 5 chance. So we're fucking moving on. And Mike,
he'd be better off with an auto blow. Better off with an auto blow.
Maybe Mike should get an auto. Mike might already have an auto blow.
This was way too many. There's way too much going on.
All right, there's too many numbers. Neil's confused.
There's 8 here. There's 5 there. There's 4 here. You have a 16% chance. Here's your 14. The 5 team has a 7% chance. It kind of sounds like it is rigged.
It's not. It's how a lot of draft systems work. It's all about how many ping pong balls you have in there, etc. But in the end, they didn't get it, and I'm sorry, Mike. And I hope that we helped you get through that. I don't think Neil helped at all.
Fuck, man, Jesus. You know what? Don't just stop watching hockey.
Why?
There's my advice.
What's your issue with hockey?
Because seems to be upsetting him so much.
Well, yeah, that's the part of being a fucking fan of sports, dude. You can't even watch your football team play.
Oh, Cam Newton, baby.
Yeah, are you ever going to actually see him play?
You think the mascot will give him the number 1 jersey?
Does he have the number 1?
Yeah.
He might have to pay him off.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Buy him a what is it? Build him like a new bathroom or an outdoor barbecue or something.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for listening to our show. You can find us and share your thoughts at Reasons Are, and Neil is
at AngelsFreak7.
Email us your questions at Reasons Are Debatable.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's at NHL Lover 1.
At NHL Neil.
Yeah.
You can email us your advice questions at reasonsaredebatable@gmail.com. Still don't have any new merch, do we? Any more new merch out there?
No, we got it. We got to come up with some.
All right. I'm going to level with you all. I would really, really appreciate you subscribing to our show and writing a review.
I'm going to level with you. I'm just going to be honest with you right now.
I mean, I got a birthday coming up in a month and a half, and I know it's early, but why don't you give that to me for my birthday? Go ahead, subscribe to the show, write a review, tell a friend. That's all I ask. Okay? Is it so much to ask?
No.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week.
See ya.